was made flesh
and dwelt amongst us.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners,
Pray for us, O Holy Mother of God,
that we may be made worthy of the promises of Christ. Pour forth, we beseech you, O Lord, your grace into our hearts, that we, to whom the incarnation of Christ, your Son, was made known by the message of an angel, may by his passion and cross be brought to the glory of his resurrection, through the same Christ our Lord. Amen.
Kini ang simbianan sa RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda 5,000 watts nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda.
What are guests gonna think?
It is weird, but it's fun. It is an exciting time to be a woman right now.
I am not ashamed of being mentally ill.
How do you think the gang problem can be solved?
There's no excuse for this.
Meth has no boundaries. It is a demon.
In the end, it feels like it takes your soul.
This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, more than a week too late, the SUV driver publicly apologizes after hitting and running over a security guard in Mandaluyong City. We will speak with the victim, Christian Floralde himself. Amid the rise in cost of fuel, more public transport operators are seeking fare hikes. Will their petitions be approved before President Duterte's term ends? And fans are still abuzz after K-pop sensation BTS announced its members will focus on solo projects for now. A major development in the controversial road incident. The driver of the SUV that ran over a security guard in Mandaluyong City more than a week ago finally turns himself in. Chrissy Di Matulak reports.
Wala naman akong masasabi na hindi naman masasabi ng abogado ko kung hindi may apologies sa nangyari. May apologies kay Mr. Floralde at kanyang pamilya.
This statement of apology comes from the driver of the white SUV which ran over security guard Christian Floralde. More than a week after the viral incident, the registered owner and driver of the vehicle, identified as Jose Antonio San Vicente, surrendered to the Philippine National Police on Tuesday. San Vicente was accompanied by his legal counsel and parents. According to his mother, they want to inform the public of how they feel for their son.
Hindi ho kami makatulog, hindi kami makakain. Siyempre, anak namin yung involved. Saka nag-viral na di ba? Masisira na yung buhay ng anak ko. For any parent ba, ganun ba gusto nyo sa anak nyo? Mabait yung anak ko. Nagtatrabaho siya. He's a very responsible man. And I think ito, aksidente naman talaga to. Lumaki lang talaga ng lumaki. And I feel so sad. Kasi, ano na mangyayari sa future ng anak ko?
In a dashcam video taken by another motorist, the white vehicle was seen to have hit Floralde and yet proceeded to roll over him. According to San Vicente, he can no longer remember what was going through his head during that time.
Hindi ko na talaga maalala kung like, kaya na sinabi ko, gulo isip ko noon hanggang ngayon. Hirap mag-isip, baka hindi ko masasagot na yan.
Meantime, Floralde expresses relief in the surrender of San Vicente and in the family's intention to shoulder his medical expenses.
Magandang balita kung ganun po yung sinabi nila. Masaya. At least paninindigan na nila ngayon yung nangyari po.
According to Floralde, he is still enduring pain in his abdominal region. The vehicle that ran over the security guard is now under the custody of the PNP. San Vicente is facing charges of frustrated murder and abandonment of one's own victim. He will be attending the preliminary hearing at the Mandaluyong Prosecutor's Office on Friday, June 17. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
So what will the next steps of the security guard, the victim here, be? And now that the SUV driver has surrendered and publicly apologized to him, we now go above and beyond the headlines with Christian Floralde. Christian, magandang gabi sa'yo.
Ay po,
Okay, unang-una, nasa ospital ka pa rin, ano? Sa isang regular room or nasa ICU ka pa?
Ma'am?
Na-release na?
Nalabas na po ako, ma'am, nung ano pa po. Kumbaga, andito po pahinga sa may probinsya po.
Saan? Sorry, saan ka nagpapahinga?
Sa probinsya po.
Sa probinsya. Okay. So, before anything else, kamusta ka na ngayon? Because nung nasa ospital ka, inireklamo mo yung ribs mo, yung baga.
Hanggang ngayon po, in pain pa rin. Kasi nung pagkalabas namin, hanggang ngayon, di pa rin kami na pag-follow up, check-up.
Okay, so in pain. Pero nag-x-ray, you were examined by the doctors. Ano sabi nila?
Maswerte nga raw po, sabi ng doktor ko eh. Kasi nung in-x-ray nila ako, wala naman sila nakita. Bukod lang doon sa suspicious sa fracture po dito sa may ribs ko, yung pinakadulo po.
Alright. So kanina humingi na ng paumanhin itong driver, si San Vicente. Tinatanggap mo ba yon?
Tinatanggap ko po yung public apology niya, pero kailangan pa rin po yung harapin niya o yung kaso po sa nakasampa sa kanya sa korte.
Alright. Meron ding, if I'm not mistaken, nagsabi ang pamilya that they will, tama ba yun? And I'm asking, nagsabi ang pamilya, di ba, na they would pay for your medical bills.
Okay lang naman po. Sagutin nila yung mga hospital bills ko, yung mga check-up, mga gamot. Pero kailangan pa rin po yung kaso po.
Okay. Kanina, doon sa press conference, sabi ng nanay at na-broadcast din namin kanina, no? But I want to repeat what she said. Sabi niya, hindi po kami makatulog, hindi kami makakain dahil anak namin yung involved. Masisira ang buhay ng anak ko. Any parent ba ganoon? Gusto nyo sa anak nyo mabait ang anak ko? Nagtatrabaho siya, a very responsible man. I feel so sad. Ano na ang mangyayari sa future ng anak ko? Ano yung masasabi mo doon, Christian?
Sa akin naman po, naunawaan ko naman po yung magulang po ni Mr. San Vicente. Siyempre, sino nga naman na magulang po. Kahit ako po, may anak na din po ako. Naunawaan ko naman po yung kung ano po nararamdaman ng nanay niya. Pero yung pangit lang po doon kasi parang ako pa yung sinisisi kung bakit nasira po yung kinabukasan ng anak nila po. Ang nangyari. Yung sinasabing responsible po yon, dapat po yung unang pagkabangga pa lang po sa akin na bumaba na ako sa sasakyan para i-check po ko para tignan na okay yung lagay ko. Kaso hindi po. Alam ko naman, naintindihan ko naman siya. Siguro ko dala na ng taranta siguro. Pero andyan na yung nangyari na yun ang nangyari.
Oo. Well, sabi na nga, oo. Sige, go ahead, Christian.
Yung nangyari na po yun, nangyari. Yung importante lang po sa akin ngayon, ma'am, buhay po ako.
Exactly. Sabi na nga niya kanina parang gulong-gulo siya, kaya para bang hindi niya alam kung anong gagawin niya. Naiintindihan mo rin yun, ano? Since this is not the first time naman na nag-traffic ka doon sa lugar na yan. So, alam mo rin kung anong nasa utak ng mga driver minsan.
Opo, ma'am. Opo. Kaya nga, salamat ako na lumutang na siya. Napakinggan po din natin yung kung ano po yung side niya po.
Okay. Yun nga lang, isang linggo, no? It took 1 week bago siya lumabas.
Nga lang po .
Okay. So ngayon ang sinasabi mo kasi naintindihan mo yung lagay ng pamilya nila, you understand kung bakit ganoon sila. Well, yung driver mismo si San Vicente kung bakit siya ganoon mag-react, naintindihan mo rin yung pamilya, etc. But you're saying na basta't harapin nila yung kaso. Ngayon pag sinasabi nila kasi na sasagutin namin yung inyong medical bills, hindi ibig sabihin pa rin na ipapaatras mo yung kaso. Tama?
Opo. Tuloy pa rin.
Kahit natanggapin mo yung medical assistance nila, tuloy pa rin ang kaso.
Po, tuloy pa rin po yung kaso po. Siguro naman, obligasyon po nila talaga po yun, di ba?
Okay. Can you, di ba sabi mo nasa probinsya ka na ngayon, meron ka ring anak. Yung anak mo, ilang taon at naintindihan ba niya kung ano nangyari sa'yo?
Totoo lang mo, nung dumaan na sa ospital, iyak ng iyak. Hindi nga nakakit, hindi nga kami nagkita. Gawa ng bawal nga yung dahil sa ospital, sa mahigpit. Video call na lang, iyak ng iyak. Sabi ko, huwag umiyak kasi para kang bakla.
Bakit naman? Ikaw, Christian naman. Kung umiyak yung bata, okay lang. Ilang taon yung anak mo?
Mag-birthday yan ma'am, sa 28.
Itong June 28, mag-iilang taon?
Mag-11 na po.
Mag-11, okay. Siyempre, iyak siya. Ama ka niya, di ba? Hindi ba?
Hindi lalaki, parang bakla.
Uy, ikaw naman, Christian. Pride month pa naman. Kahit lalaki, pwede namang umiyak. But anyway, sige. So, Christian, ngayon, nagpapahinga ka lang doon. Paano yung sweldo mo? Yung security agency mo continues to pay yung sweldo mo?
Opo, nagpapasalamat nga po ako sa agency ko po, yung 157 Raptor. Kasi simula, umpisa, pagkapasok ko ng ospital, lahat po ng gastusin sinagot po nila hanggang sa ngayon tuloy-tuloy pa rin po yung sahod ko, sagot pa rin po ng agency. Kaya sobrang sorte ko sa agency ko po.
At babalik ka pa rin sa trabaho, dyan, in that same spot where you met that accident?
Opo, kasi yan na rin po yung nakagisnan ko, sanay na rin po ako.
Okay. Sige. Christian Floralde, maraming salamat sa iyo at pahinga ka lang. Thank you.
Apo.
More public transport operators are seeking fare hikes as they continue to bear the brunt of soaring pump prices. CNR Kanghel tells us if they could expect a go signal from regulators soon.
Love Castillo is on the road 21 hours a day, driving a public utility bus to and from Parañaque to Cavite. He earns only 250 pesos a day, no thanks to the continuing rise in fuel prices.
Dati-dati kumikita kami na mga 500, ngayon wala na. Mga 250 na lang, ganun. Sinatsaga lang namin kasi wala kami ibang hanap buhay.
A group of provincial bus operators is seeking a fare increase of up to 50 centavos per kilometer to cope with rising fuel and toll costs. Bus fares were last increased in 2018. The LTFRB has received fare increase petitions from operators of jeepneys, taxis, and Transport Network Vehicle Services or TNVS. Jeepney operators are seeking a 5 peso hike in the minimum fare, while taxi operators want the flag down rate increased from 40 to 60 pesos. Grab Philippines and My Taxi PH have also asked the LTFRB to approve a 15 to 20 peso increase in flag down rates, plus an increase of up to 7 pesos per kilometer after flag down and a 1 peso hike in the per minute charge.
We just wanted a change in the flag down rate so that if prices of fuel goes down, it would be easier to give it back without the need of calibrating the meters of the taxis.
The LTFRB has set a hearing on June 28th to discuss the petition of jeepney operators and another hearing the next day to tackle the request of TNVS operators. The board is non-committal on whether or not these petitions will be approved before the Duterte administration ends on June 30th. Since the start of the year, diesel has gone up by over 36 pesos per liter and gasoline prices by 26 pesos.
No matter kung sino po yung administrasyon na nakaupo, government will always continue and nasa proseso po talaga ng LTFRB to entertain petitions for fare hike. Ang iniisip lang lagi kasi ng board ng mga factors na to consider are the effects also to the commuters and the viability also ng mga operators.
Commuters say they understand the plight of public transport operators but admit that higher fares will be an additional burden.
Mahirap para sa isang commuter na tulad ko. Lalo na sa pamilya mo, marami ka rin pinapakain.
Malaking apekto sa katulad namin kasi yung yung budget namin pang pamasahe, mga ganyan.
Yung sahod nga sa sinasabi ko, hindi pa ramdam. So, apektado yung pamasahe araw-araw na tumaas na talaga.
Commuters can only hope they can afford higher fares that compete with rising cost of basic goods on a shoestring budget. Sian Arcangel, CNN, Philippines.
From PUV operators appealing for higher fares to drivers asking for more government assistance, George Cahiles reports a lawmaker now wants a third fuel subsidy.
With the skyrocketing prices of fuel, jeepney driver Moises Peñaranda is hoping to receive the coveted fuel subsidy from the government. Peñaranda says while it's a temporary relief, it will somehow help them get by.
Sa taas ng krudo, nakabawi-bawi din kahit papaano. Sa financial, sa pagkain, pamilya.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board reports out of the more than 260,000 beneficiaries from the LTFRB regulated mode of transport, over 230,000 have already received the first tranche of the subsidy, amounting to 6,500 pesos. Of the more than 27,000 delivery riders, the subsidy were already handed over to at least 22,000. As for the tricycle drivers, the LTFRB is still processing the documents for the over 617,000 beneficiaries who will receive 1,000 pesos each.
We will also make sure na we prepare everything before the term ends dahil by next week kasi we aim to submit to the DBM yung second tranche po natin na requirements para ma-release na po ng DBM. Hopefully by early July ay ma-release na din ng DBM yung second tranche po.
Should the second tranche of the fuel subsidy will be released by July, authorities say the distribution will be faster since the amount will just be topped up in the existing accounts of beneficiaries. Meanwhile, Senator Win Gatchalian proposes a third tranche of fuel subsidy to PUV drivers and operators.
Yes, I am. I'm looking at that. It's more economical. One tranche will cost you about 4 billion to about 6 billion pesos. As opposed to removing excise tax that will cost us roughly around 200 billion pesos. So it's still more economical to give fuel subsidies, provided it's given immediately.
But should the current crisis drags on for the next 6 to 12 months, Gatchalian says the government must study the possibility of suspending the fuel excise tax. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
Meanwhile, transport regulators say the libreng sakay or free rides for commuters may only last until August, citing a tight budget. And while prices are increasing at the pump, consumers are feeling the pinch of rising food costs. Local farmers are producing less amid a looming food crisis. Melissa Lopez spoke to agricultural groups to find out what they need to do to raise production.
Consumers are running out of cheap food options. Pork prices have remained high since last year. Chicken and vegetable prices are not far behind, and so is fish. Even galunggong, previously the so-called poor man's fish, now retails for 240 pesos a kilogram in wet markets. The Fisheries Bureau says supply is short for the season and expensive fuel for fishing boats is making matters worse.
Less fishing days because of the weather. So less production. Mataas mga inputs ngayon, lalo na yung fuel eh. Pataas ng pataas. Nagkikusap kami sa ating mga mangingisda na lumabas at mangisda. No? Meron pa naman tayong andyan lang yung isda, kailangan nating ulihin.
Despite the high price, farmers and fishermen continue to struggle with low incomes and high input costs. The group Pamalakaya says its members continue to lose out on imported supply, leaving an even smaller room for local fisherfolk to compete. The group held a protest outside the Agriculture Department main office on Wednesday to reject the importation of nearly 40,000 metric tons of fish from China. The NGO Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement says food security and stable food prices must be on top of the incoming administration's agenda.
How high is high? Top 3 definitely. Food an issue of national security. Kaya natuwi ako actually kay Professor Carlos. Sinabi niya, uy, food security is part of national security. When you say that, ay siyempre government, top na kanyang responsibility is national security, and that is not just defense of territory, not just internal security, but the security of people na hindi magugutom.
The Fisheries Bureau says the government wants to empower local fisherfolk for a bigger haul, but would need over 9 billion pesos to make it happen.
We should only be importing the fish that we cannot produce. Di ba? Gaya ng salmon. Mayroon kaming na-measure yan na figures. 164,000 metric tons of fish waiting to be cast in the municipal water. Kailangan lang natin hulihin yun. I-capacitate natin ang municipal fishing.
Anticipation is high on who will be the next Agriculture Secretary to chart the path.
Pagdating sa food security, you need a combination of public and private. Yung taong ang sikmura ay sinabi, from hungry to angry.
Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
Coming up, the country records more than a dozen new cases of the more transmissible Omicron subvariants. And who among the members of the Marcos family will reside in Malacanang? Details next on Newsnight, where we go above and beyond headlines.
Pandemic, serving others is the best. Sa pagtutulungan, patuloy ang ating laban sa buhay. Kaya dapat always healthy. With proper diet, exercise, and MX3 coffee mix to ignite my day. Hi guys! Lagi akong focus, active, at extraordinary. Because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 coffee mix, my choice.
Fried chicken? Timplang happy! With easy-to-cook Magnolia Chicken Timplados. Iba't ibang sarap ng chicken, kaya. Anong Magnolia Chicken Timplados mo? Iba't ibang easy chicken sarap.
Welcome back. The country reports new cases of the more transmissible Omicron subvariants. The Health Department logged 6 new BA.5 and 10 more BA.2.12.1 cases. These were detected across Metro Manila, Cagayan Valley, Calabar Zone, and Bicol, as well as Eastern and Western Visayas and Northern Mindanao. The DOH is checking the travel history of these cases and how they were exposed to the virus. The DOH says that uptick in cases cannot be attributed to the subvariants just yet.
Hindi mga bahagyang pagtaas ng kaso sa pagpasok nitong bagong variant. Ang ating genetic sequencing, we cannot test everybody. No? So, having said that, we cannot really be very certain na tayo, itong driver ng ating infection sa ngayon would be the subvariants. Although we are assuming that the subvariants are here and causing this transmission also.
In Metro Manila, 11 areas have seen an increase in cases in the past 2 weeks, but Vergere says it is not yet time to upgrade to Alert Level 2. The capital region remains under the lowest alert level until the end of the month. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara advises Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia to reach out to the Interagency Task Force about her mask mandate. Guevara says this will help clear the air between the executive and the provincial government. He insists Garcia's directive on making mask wearing optional outdoors, even if it becomes an ordinance, remains inconsistent with the national regulation. The outgoing Justice Chief points out Garcia can request to modify the existing mask mandate. He also says Cebu could be a test case to check if optional mask wearing outdoors will not lead to a surge in infections. More diplomats pay a courtesy call on President-elect Bongbong Marcos in his Mandaluyong headquarters. Among them, the Finnish ambassador to the Philippines, who says Finland hopes Marcos will condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Marcos had previously committed to forging an independent policy on the war in Eastern Europe, even if the Philippines voted in favor of a United Nations resolution that explicitly condemns the invasion.
The Philippines has been in the group of countries condemning the Russian aggression. And what I convey to the President-elect is that I hope that his administration will continue to appreciate and respect this approach from the Philippine side in the future as well.
Finland is seeking membership to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, in a bid to secure its border with Russia. Another envoy who visited Marcos is the ambassador of Norway, who said the European country will continue its role in the Bangsamoro peace process. Marcos also welcomed the ambassadors of Hungary, Romania, and South Africa. Well, 2 weeks before the inauguration of President-elect Marcos, his sister shares that the family has yet to finalize who will reside in Malacanang. Asked if former First Lady Imelda Marcos will join the first family in the palace, here's what Senator Amy Marcos had to say.
Ewan ko, hindi pa napapag-usapan kasi yun nga, ang importante, yung maahon namin, ang pangalan namin, ang apelyido namin, yung legacy ng tatay ko, mabalikan at tignan ng maigi. Yun ang importante. Yung Malacanang, ang yabang namin pero sa totoo lang, nanggaling na kami dun Labis-labis na yung paninirahan namin dun.
With a rise in the prices of fuel and other commodities, the lawmaker says public expectation of her brother's administration is, quote, nerve-wracking.
Kumbaga, walang himala. Kahit Marcos na yan, kahit buhay pa yung tatay ko noon na napakagaling at napakasipag, palagay ko mahihirapan talaga. Kaya kinakabahan kami sa inaasahan ng tao na parang kisap mata lang, mawawala na yung taas presyo ng gasolina, yung mamahaling mga pagkain.
The inauguration is set for June 30th at the National Museum. Senator Marcos has confirmed their mother Imelda will attend the event. Just 15 days left until President Rodrigo Duterte steps down from office. On politics as usual, Communications Undersecretary Chris Ablan told me that President Duterte is keeping his hands full with remaining duties and shuttling between Manila and Davao City. No word yet on his next meeting with President-elect Marcos, although Ablan said the incoming and outgoing chief executives are expected to uphold traditional inauguration rites on June 30th. It's not just tradition, it's not just for, it's not really just photo op. No, hindi naman lang siya formality. Why is it so important?
Well, it's very symbolic. No, the palace is the home of our president, and the turnover is very important. That there is a handing over of one administration to another.
Dapat ba talagang magpakita yung incumbent president and VP sa oath taking ng incoming or president-elect and VP-elect?
By tradition, yes, no, but they're not required naman by the law or the constitution to be present.
Outgoing Vice President Leni Robredo will not be able to attend the inauguration of VP-elect Sara Duterte in Davao City this Sunday because of the Naga City Charter Day happening that same weekend. The country's 15th Vice President, Sara Duterte, will take her oath in Davao City this weekend. CNN Philippines will bring you the inauguration as it happens this Sunday, June 19th. Catch our documentary, Inday Sara, the Vice President, and our pre-oath-taking special hosted by senior anchor Rico Hizon from 3 p.m. onwards. More stories to come. BTS members are shifting their attention to solo activities, but a representative assures fans the group is not going on hiatus. And some very nice news for K-pop fans, with a famous act announcing 2 live shows in the country this October. Details when we return.
Land Bank has always believed that in this country, we have to dream big. And so we learned to build something out of nothing, improving the quality of life for our people so that we can keep in step with a brave new world and make our big dreams come true.
Beyond bringing power to all, We're taking steps to produce and deliver Earth-friendly energy today and for our children's tomorrow. Powering the good life. Meralco.
This is Newsnight on CNN Philippines. For BTS fans, the K-pop sensation announced its members will focus on solo projects for now instead of making music as a group. A BTS representative clarified to CNN that it is not a hiatus and that the group will stay active in different formats. In the festive dinner celebrating their 9th anniversary, BTS leader RM shared he felt lost under the shadow of their global fame and that he wanted time to think. The announcement trended online with BTS armies sharing their sadness over the news. This netizen tweeted about how they cannot listen to newly released song for youth the same way again. The track is dedicated to BTS fans. Some BTS armies say they understand the decision, calling it a healthy way to recover from burnout in the K-pop industry. And here at home, Filipino carrots get ready to say the name 17 at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay City very soon. The chart-topping K-pop group will return for 2 shows in Manila this October 8th and 9th. The concerts are under 17's Be the Sun World Tour. The boy group is known for hits like Nice and Darling. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros, and before we go, find out more about this labeling program that will help you choose energy-efficient appliances. The Energy Department says this will help consumers save more electricity in the long run. Let's watch this.
The focus that we're doing is behavioral. But if there is an opportunity for people to invest, of course, investing in light-emitting diode lighting, having inverter-type technologies, particularly in cooling products such as refrigerators and air conditioners, those are a good start in terms of managing and making your households more energy efficient. The Philippine Energy Labeling Program, or the PELP, is the mandatory energy labeling and rating system for energy-consuming products in the country. At present, it covers various lighting products, refrigerating appliances, air conditioners, and television sets.
Firefly Electric and Lighting Corporation is one of the leading and established lighting and electrical players in the country today. The implementation of the PELP in the market further reinforces our responsibilities as manufacturers and distributors of energy-consuming products in ensuring that whatever claims we make are validated and tested. The implementation of the PELP will help accelerate our message to the market that not all LED brands are of the same quality or are created equal, and hence deserving of the trust and investment of our consumers.
PELP will benefit both for our company and consumers. It will benefit for us because this is in line with our direction. PELP will promote educating the public and the importance in investing in the right and most energy efficient appliance. PELP is very good for both our consumer benefit and our business. If inverter split type demand become bigger, manufacturers will be focusing more on this segment and competing with each other to develop more energy efficient products, so manufacturing costs will be less. I want to say that shifting production to inverter is more profitable for manufacturers as well.
Certainly, it is a good basis for the consumer when choosing which products to buy. And this also helps uplift the reputation of the dealers and retailers, as they will be known to sell reputable and reliable products, resulting in customer loyalty and store preference. Applying PELP to other energy-consuming devices will of course ensure the consumer of more energy-efficient products that will be available in the market. This means that more products will be operating with lower electricity consumption. And this will not only benefit our customer, but also help to protect environment from resources depletion. That's why our company will continue to thrive by producing more and more products that are both cost and energy efficient.
Siguro ang pangunahing tanong ng ating mga consumer, kung mas mahal bang mag-invest na kapag binili natin, may konting kamahalan pa siya sa kasalukuyan, subalit pag ginamit natin to o yung operation nito, nababawi naman natin doon yung ating gastos sa lighting at saka sa cooling products.
Kini ang simbiyanan sa RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda 5,000 watts nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda.
From social media to TV ads, we're constantly flooded with the idea that we need to have the perfect body for a happier and healthier life. We even have a name for it, diet culture. This is a misconception that our physical appearance is more important than our well-being. As a result, people may obsess over good and bad food, control our bodies through diets like detoxes, and resort to self-depreciating talk. For some, this can lead to struggles with eating disorders and mental health issues. In this episode, we'll talk more about the impact that diet culture has on Filipinos today. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Weight stigma can be seen as deeply entrenched in our society. Our guests are here today to tell us more about diet culture and how we can best combat it. With us is Dr. Dex Macalintal, who is a lifestyle medicine specialist and registered nutritionist dietitian from Calamba Medical Center. Also with us is Epi Gochanco. He's a clinical psychologist and psychotherapist at the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Earlier on the show, we mentioned that diet culture refers to the belief that our appearance matters more than our health as well as our well-being. Epi, let's start the conversation with you. Tell us more about this, and why are people talking about it more frequently?
It has something to do with popularity and being accepted by people. Diet culture is actually talking about mostly having a good appearance, but it has to be understood that having a good appearance has something to do with also having to lose weight. But the question is, does this apply to everybody? Everybody has a certain body type, and therefore it isn't as simple as just looking at the appearance. It goes deeper into the psyche, where people also get to feel bad about themselves. There's self-blame, there's guilt because they have to be looked at a certain way. And society, and as they say, the social media has something to do with it because they set the standards for how a person should look like.
Diet culture is fueled by the internet and social media, but the food industry has taken advantage of the narrative that skinny is good and heavy is bad. Unfortunately, this often leads to what they call fat talk. Epi, please explain to our viewers what this is and how does it affect people?
If you look at the definition of both, it sounds the same. It's just that in diet culture, the values and beliefs are there, and the fat talk is the behavior, meaning to say they say negative things about how one looks, what they eat, the choices of food. Everything is about negative comments. And see, the problem is if you have so many negative comments, it goes into your psyche again. And these negative comments actually will affect how you see yourself and others. Therefore, it's always negative. And negative thoughts is not good. In fact, if you look at it, most depression comes from negative thoughts.
Diet culture and fat talk is so embedded in society that we might not realize that we are perpetuating it. Epi, what are some examples of fat talk in the Philippines or in Filipino culture?
If you listen to people outside while they eat, some people will say, for example, you're taking too much salt or you're eating too much rice. And, oh, I notice you have more curves now, something like that. So this kind of talking is actually negative comments, and it actually makes other people and oneself feel bad about themselves.
All this talk about beauty, diet, and exercise can significantly impact how we feel about ourselves. Dr. Dex, walk us through how diet culture can affect a person's self-esteem.
Well, we've been talking about fat talk and diet culture. And diet culture is a belief that appearance and body shape are more important than the physiologic, psychological, and general well-being of the person. It is one factor that contributes to disordered eating habits. If a dieter fails to attain his or her ideal look, he or she may feel bad about him or herself, thus affecting their self-esteem, telling themselves, I'm not perfect, I'm not likable, I'm not beautiful, etc. This is essentially a form of degrading oneself. It is very problematic in that it is associated with body dissatisfaction, which may in turn to, again, eating disorders. It would promote unhealthy behaviors around food and with our bodies. And we must remember that the focus should be on developing healthy behaviors when we are going on a diet. And it is not merely about the appearance. And again, this should be addressed in public forums like this one.
Now, eating disorders have become prevalent in young women today. The National Eating Disorders Association estimates that 10 to 20% of women in college suffer from an eating disorder. Dr. Dex, what exactly is an eating disorder? And could you tell us more about how it affects young women today? Give us an idea of what might be going through their minds.
Eating disorders happen when people gets a negative relationship with food. So usually they binge, they purge, and they binge, and they purge again. So what happens here is sometimes people have this negative relationship with food, them being telling that food is enemy. So anong nangyari dito, nagkakaroon na sila ng hirap ng pagkain, they have difficulty in taking in food, no? And then minsan nagkakaroon sila ng nutrient deficiencies, which then can lead to a lot of diseases in the long run.
Now, a person with an eating disorder might focus on prioritizing low-calorie food, or they might view exercise as an excuse to work off so-called bad foods. Now, in the long run, this can be detrimental to their health. Dr. Dex, walk us through some of the warning signs of an eating disorder and how can loved ones best help these people who are struggling with it?
Number one, hindi na nila gustong kumain. Okay? And they really get this excuse na, mag-exercise naman ako or ipapurge ko din naman ito. So, these are warning signs na medyo hindi maganda. Yung mga pauna na warning sign ay yung hindi nila masyadong gustong kumain. That's actually yung first sign na ayaw nila kumain, parang iniisip nila, that's bad food. And then they label good foods and bad foods, especially nowadays that social media is very rampant on giving us a look on what should be perfect, so to speak. Nakikita natin sa skin nila, they have dry skin already. And then ito na, nagbe-binge, nagpe-purge, and then they really have this negative connotation about food, that food could be their enemy.
For many, losing weight is an unrelenting goal to strive for. How can this quest for the perfect body impact someone's mental health? More on this when we return. We're your partner in healthcare. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Protektahi ang imong mga mata batok sa delikado ug makadaot nga ultraviolet nga silaw sa adlaw ug uban pa. Pinaagi sa pagsulob og eksakto nga prescription sa antiyohos o antipara. Likay ang mga simptomas sama sa hanap nga pananaw sa layo o duol nga basahon, sakit sa ulo ug uban pa nga makaapekto sa atong kahimsog nga ang hinungdan depekto sa atong mga mata. Alang sa kumpleto nga primary eye care, contact lenses, fashion eyewear, computer eyeglasses, sunglasses, accessories ug uban pa, adto kita sa AG Buñuel Optical Clinic. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic nagpahinumdum kanato nga ang kahimsog sa atong mga mata usa ka prioridad nga angay ipa-check up kausa matag tuig aron pagsiguro nga luwas kita sa piligrong mga sakit. Pinaagi sa lisensyado og qualified optometrists nga maoy mo prescribe sa eksaktong kagamitan og kung primary eye care ang paghisgutan. Duaw lang silang buhatan sa 3636 sa Nicolas Street, Surigao City ug adunay ilang extension office sa Aurelianida Street, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur. Ayaw kalimti higala, AG Buñuel Optical Clinic.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic doon na branch dito sa lungsod sa Dapa sa may Lupis Haina Street, Poblasyon Dapa, Surigao del Norte.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic dinhi sa syudad ng Surigao no transfer na sa bag-ong location sa Nicolas Street Ragyahapon, tapad sa Garcia Hotel at bang sa Unicity.
GSM Blue ang kasama. Drink responsibly. Ang Gen Pomelo, kuhang-kuha ng GSM Blue. Choose what's true and just chill and enjoy with GSM Blue. Drink responsibly.
Ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated na silang bagong location sa Dalan, Burgos ning atong syudad. Mahimo niyong tawagan sa telephone number 231-7478 or 826-3663. Mga produkto nga inyong mapalit, genuine, makita power tools sama sa planer, drill, grinder, Triton paints, construction supplies, angle bars, flat bars, GI pipes, automotive spare parts, Firefly electrical devices sama sa switches, bulbs ug outlets. Adto ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated sa ilang bagong pwesto sa Dalan, Burgos ning syudad. Makahangyo ka o makabarato pagyod diha sa Riverside Parts Master Incorporated.
Sipon plus baradong ilong na may kasamang pananakit ng ulo? Pre, ba't ka nagtitiis? Kung meron namang Calabo Premium Rub, Calabo Premium Rub, isang pahid lang, nanunuot ang sarap sa pakiramdam sa ulo, ilong at sarap sa may ginhawa. Tandaan, basta sipon na may kasamang sakit ng ulo at baradong ilong, magpahid lang ng Calabo Premium Rub. Mabisa, kaya sigurado. Gawa ng Jesser Marketing. Mabibili na ngayon sa mga butiga. Ang kapinghot sa ilong nga imong giantos, hasol kaayo kini, hilabi na kung apilan mong pagsipon nga lisod tang tangon. Sulay higala ang gahom sa Calabo Premium Rub. Ipahid palibot sa imong ilong aron ang gahom sa Calabo Extract inubanan sa malunggay and virgin coconut oil manuhot-suhot kini. Calabo Premium Rub, ang sulbad sa pinghot nga ilong. Calabo Premium Rub is a quality product of Jesser Marketing.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, where caring is our calling. There are definitely times that we subconsciously encourage today's diet culture. It's the notion that being skinny equates to beauty as well as success, and that eating a certain way will result in the correct size. But this idea sets many people up to feel bad about themselves. Epi, what are some of the negative impacts of diet culture to our mental health?
It does affect how one feels about oneself, as you already mentioned. It affects how it gets generalized in their behavior. For example, if one person says, I shouldn't eat this, I will look bad, and judges himself all the time, what happens, they start also feeling a bit paranoid, thinking that other people might be thinking the same way about them, and then they feel bad all the time. They feel guilt all the time.
Now, a common effect of this is that it changes a person's relationship with their partner, their family, or even their friends. Tell us more about this, Epi.
When they start having this feeling that other people think the same thing about how they think, then they usually have a more stressful relationship with others. It becomes strained, and they start to distance themselves from others, or they isolate themselves because they think that others are also judging them the same way that they judge themselves.
More importantly, it impacts a person's relationship with themselves. Dr. Dex, how does diet culture affect body image, especially among adolescents?
Well, people involved in diet culture believe that being thin, again, is equivalent to being healthy, and being on the other side of the spectrum, meaning being on the heavier side, means that one is unhealthy. This is very evident in people who are restricting their diets too much, adhering to fad diets. For example, yung mga gluten-free diet when he or she is not really intolerant or allergic to gluten. It is also very evident nowadays in online communities, on social media. If a member of a group deviates a little bit on their preaching, it would seem that other members sort of crucify them for their doing. This promotes a negative relationship with food and to a person's self.
Could you talk more about the vegan diet, more so on the part where how this can affect someone either for the better or some of the limitations that people should understand whenever they make the choice to go for the vegan diet?
Well, the vegan diet involves you eating more of your vegetables, more of your fruits, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes, and you deviate from eating meat. That is the strict vegan diet. So what happens here is that, yes, it has a lot of benefits. Like, for example, you get more vitamins, more nutrients, more micronutrients, more phytonutrients, and at less calories. So you really lose a lot of weight until you have the ideal body weight. The downside here is that if we eat a little less meat, or if we eat no meat at all, we are losing a little bit on the high biologic value of your protein. So this then can lead to your iron deficiency anemia and even megaloblastic anemia.
Dr. Dex, what advice can you give for the viewers who are watching this who are unsure about which diet to take or which diet is best for them? What advice can you give them? And should the viewers also be aware of any risks in a certain diet when it comes to the other facets of the body, the cardiovascular system, the endocrine system, and all the others? How does this equate as a whole?
There is no one-size-fits-all diet. You follow a nutritional guideline. For example, the nutritional guideline for the Filipinos, the first one is to eat a variety of foods every day, because there's no one food that can give you or supply you with the nutrients that you need for the whole day. Don't indulge on fad diets that you've just seen on social media. O nakapayat to, so okay to. Being thin or being on the lighter side doesn't equate to being healthy. So you can be on the heavier side, but you're still healthy. You can be on your normal body weight and you stay healthy. Read only medically verified articles online. There are a lot of accessible journal articles, but since nutrition is an absolute mess, if you're going to check them, make sure that the bias is very low and try to check on the funding of the studies. If you are really at a loss, and what I can do for you, for our viewers, is to lead you to a website called hellodoctor.com.ph, where I am one of their medical editors. Trust only a registered nutritionist dietitian. As you would for your problems with the eye, you go to an ophthalmologist. For problems with your skin, you go to a dermatologist. For problems with your bones, you go to an orthopedic surgeon.
No matter what age, we need to work together to promote a healthier view on food and weight. More on this when we return. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back.
SMC San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Maayong balita sa tanan sa atong panginahanglan sa panimalay, mga gamit, ingon man mga dekorasyon, pwede na natong mapalit diha sa Wellington Bazaar. Anausab sa Wellington Bazaar ang mga bistidahon, karsunison, plain t-shirt, plastic chair, floor mat, mantel, banig, folding bed, habol, mosketero, trapal, lideret, basketball, stuffed toys ug mga dulaan sa bata. Ang Wellington Bazaar ana magalagad kanato sa Dalan Kaimo ning Dakbayan sa Surigao. Wellington Bazaar, gikan sa mga kawani og tigdumala sa Wellington Bazaar. Mayong adlaw alang kaninyo. Wellington Bazaar, sukion ta sa kanunay.
GSM Blue ang kasama.
responsibly. Ang Gen Pomelo, kuhang-kuha ng GSM Blue. Choose what's true and just chill and enjoy with GSM Blue. Drink responsibly.
Uy, day! Naunsa man ka, day?
Day, kanang glisod ang ko kakita, day. Uy!
Isos, naunsa ba ka? Uy nga, katong niaging bulan, okay pa man ka? Naunsa day karon?
Laot siguro ni sisingunit aning cellphone kanang si computer, day.
Da, mo lagi na akong ingon ba? Uy, day, nakoy balita para sa imuha. Gamit og Lutein Plus, uy!
Lutein Plus?
Oo, tungod ang Lutein Plus, day, duna kay 13 ka-ingredients. Hindi lang kini para sa mata, kundi sa imuhang tibuok lawas. Nga maka-assist pod sa imuhang anxiety o depression.
Ang Lutein Plus, usa ka award-winning brand nga gikan pa sa New Zealand.
The award-winning supplements from Clean Green New Zealand Omega Plus ang support sa heart and blood system. Ang Lutein Plus ay 13 ka mga ingredients lakip ng vitamins A and C. Dili lamang kung maradyaw sa itong pananaw, nagsuporta sa bini sa ato intiro lawas. Ning panahon nga jara kita kuman sa COVID-19 pandemic, kinahanglan magpabilin kitang himsog inom sa Lutein Plus, Omega Plus, and Primrose Plus Soft Gel. Inintanan available dia sa New Family Drug, Palma Drug, sa Aquarian Pharmacy.
Kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric. Maayo kini alang sa mga naganto sa high blood. Kung perming kasakit ang imong tangkugo, kung masobraan ka og kaon sa mga lamiang pagkaon, basig ning tukar na ang imong high blood. Pagtumar higala og kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric. Usa ka capsule bago mo gaon aron siguradong protektado kang kanunay. Kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric. Masaligan og siguradong epektibo batok sa high blood. Kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric. Kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric is a quality product of Jesser Marketing.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk. Today, we're talking about diet culture and how to best resist it for a truly happy and healthy you. Avoiding diet culture might be impossible due to its pervasive nature in society, but there are certainly ways to limit our exposure to it. Can you give us some tips regarding this, Epi?
Accept oneself the way one is. As I've said earlier, there are different body types, and one should understand that not because another person is really slim, that we should be as slim as the other person, because that may not be our body type. We have to accept what we have, and no matter how one looks, if that is how our body type is, we can still be healthy even if we're not as thin as the other person. The other thing is that we should talk less about negative things, to have less of or to take out the fat talk, meaning to say one should stop saying, oh, I have so much bulges now on my tummy, or I've eaten too much of this, and it doesn't make me look good. All these things are negative thoughts, which is fat talk.
Diet culture results in having harmful practices as well, and a healthier way to go about your diet is through intuitive eating. Dr. Dex, first tell us about some of these unhealthy eating practices.
Number one, too much food restriction. And then you binge, and then you purge, you follow fad diets because there are a lot of testimonials. You eat too much processed foods. You eat too much sugars, you eat on the go, so that you develop, again, a negative relationship with food. You get poor meal planning, you get giant portion sizes, and you avoid nutrient-dense foods just because some guru online says it is not healthy.
Now, Dr. Dex, talk about intuitive eating. How can this reverse these unhealthy practices?
All right, intuitive eating is an approach to feeding oneself, promoting a healthy attitude toward food and body image. This banks on the idea that if you're hungry, you can go eat. With intuitive eating, one respects the feeling of hunger and fullness. Eat when you're hungry and stop when you are full. These body signals are very important so that you will know when to start and when to stop eating. Actually, these principles to be followed are concepts that have been around since 60s and the 70s. Some principles include that there's no one-size-fits-all diet. You order your hunger. You make peace with food to develop a positive relationship with food. There are no good nor bad foods. Respect your fullness. You stop eating when you are full. You be satisfied with your food. You honor your feelings, and you do not use food to fuel your feelings. And you respect your body. you exercise, and lastly, to honor your health.
Another helpful tip is to stop labeling food as good or bad. Dr. Dex, talk more about this as well.
If we label food as good or bad, definitely one principle of intuitive eating is already countered, and that is to accept that there is really no good or bad food. People labeling carbs or fats as bad and one should not eat them are not helping the ones who are struggling for their health. They can be toxic. They can create a toxic ecosystem that may actually harm more people than help them. I, for one, I have received a lot of patients coming in from fad diet groups, even mentored by their so-called gurus, who are now having difficulty on knowing what to eat. And they really have problems with their relationships with food, themselves, and their communities. We must remember that health is not equivalent to being thin. And I quote our mentor in lifestyle medicine, Dr. Michael Greger, the goal of weight loss is to become healthy or healthier. It is not to fit in a skinnier casket.
Ultimately, a healthy diet often starts with making informed decisions about what's best for your body. Now, before we go, what are some of the other practices that we can start with? Epi, can you share some of them?
One needs to understand that when one eats, it has something to do with how one looks nowadays. We have to understand that eating has something to do with how we survive in this world. And therefore, we have to eat to survive instead of eating to resolve some issues about love, about rejection, about abandonment. We have to be aware of our own feelings about how angry or sad we are instead, so that we won't be able to address this in our eating.
Now, diet culture represents an ongoing problem in our society, but choosing to love your body and nourishing it can harness a greater sense of fulfillment. Thank you, lifestyle medicine specialist Dr. Dex Macalintal and clinical psychologist Epi Gochanco, for being with us today. We appreciate your time and your insights. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this has been MedTalk Health Talk. We'll see you again next time.
Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda.